The new S series combines got a couple of different new functions on the head. We've been talking about, a lot of guys are wanting to know where they get their, to speed up their drapers or their head height, speed. How's this button come on? How's this button come on? The pointer. There. This button here on your armrest, that's going to be our draper speed. If you push that button on your armrest, it looks like the head. You're going to push it once and it's going to pop up and it's going to say hydroflex pressure right here on the number 1. And you'll either have the plus and the minus, or on the side the dial. You can adjust that pressure on your hydroflex up or down, however you need to go. And then if you push that button again, the head button, you push it a second time, it's just going to go to page number 2, which is going to be your draper speed. And then that is where you're going to be able to speed up your draper speed or slow it down if you need to. Push that button over on the right side where it's got the turtle and the rabbit, the up and down. You push it once, and it's going to go to your manual raise and lower speed. And you can adjust it for your speed up and down. Push it again, you're going to go to your sensitivity, which is going to be the sensitivity of the head being on the ground. Push it a third time is going to be your tilt sensitivity. So if you're running a faster speed, you're going to want to adjust that sensitivity up. On the slower speed, you might want to adjust it down, depending on if your head's getting real erratic, going up and down or tilting side to side. Anybody got any questions on them two functions?
Never ran a draper before.
Yeah.
What do you look for increasing and lowering your speed of that belt? I mean,
You're going to notice it in your ground speed more than anything. If you're getting slow feed, you're going to want to increase the speed on them belts. If your ground speed's too fast and your draper's not flexing the way you want it to, you may need to increase your pressure up or down, lateral tilt. Anybody else? We'll get into the moisture sensor and the mass flow calibrations on the S series. How many S series guys have got in here? Quite a few. Okay. Some of the things that are important is we do need to calibrate the moisture sensor temperature. Now the way to do that is probably going to be first thing in the morning before you ever get started. Combine's in the shed. Everything's going to be the same temperature. You'll get to this page here, and where that right here, it's going to say right in there when you get to that temperature calibration page, it's going to have a number in there, and that's going to be what your actual temperature is right now. Probably don't need to worry about an offset in it. Probably just go ahead and hit your accept button, and then that way it's already calibrated. The way that you get into them, you're going to go to your calibration button, the wrench in the book. You're going to get into that, and then over here on this side, you're going to have another button over here that's going to go to the your calibrations. Once you select that button, you're going to see a drop-down box come up, and you're going to highlight the moisture sensor temperature. Then once you select that, of course, enter, enter. Now, if there's ever a change in the temperature, and you need to adjust for what the actual temperature is and what the temperature of the sensor is, you can put that button right in there with the plus or the minus. Say it's 72 degrees outside, your temperature varies 3 degrees, plus or minus either way. Main thing is when you're doing that though is you want to make sure that that your mass flow sensor is clean. You don't want no debris on it, no nothing. Vibration calibration, same thing. Right back in the wrench in the book. drop-down box, go to the mass flow vibration calibration. When you do this, the machine needs to be running, not harvesting, but your separator on, head running. Head not on the ground, but off the ground a little ways. Once you select that drop down, hit the enter button. Next page here, it'll go through its calibration. It's automatic, you don't have to put nothing in, it just runs itself. Takes about 60 seconds.
Full RPM.
Full RPM, yes, yes, full RPM. You'll want to do this per crop type. Now, whether you got your draper on and you just cut some wheat, you're still going to want to go back and do this before you go to beans. You want to recalibrate that for different crops. Same head, but different crops. Same way when we switch to corn. Yes, sir.
If you do it, say you're combining corn in the morning and then beans in the afternoon, do you have to change it?
Yes, you'll need to recalibrate.
All right.
You'll have to go through a recalibration process between the heads anyway, between your corn head and your draper or your platform. So another 45 seconds or 60 seconds to do this isn't going to be that big of a deal when you're going down through all your calibrations. The nice part about these is that they automatically go through the process for it. You just hit the yes button. You know, it's not like you got to go through and put in a bunch of calibration numbers. This here is just going to be the different screens that you're going to see when you're doing your calibrations. You know, and it's going to tell you here what you're doing. Next, this button down here is going to be your enter button. And it's going to tell you over here that the calibration's going on. It's going to could last up to 60 seconds. It'll tell you that when the calibration's complete. And then it'll come over here if a calibration fails. It's going to pop up here and it's going to tell you what caused that calibration to fail. Like in this instance, it said make sure the elevator speed is greater than 50 RPM for the duration of the calibration. So if something happened there, it's going to come up and tell you what failed or why the calibration failed, and then you'll need to go on in and fix that problem and recalibrate. Moisture correction. Here, you want to make sure that all your calibrations are done before you go to the moisture correction. And it's going to be the same way as with the original. You're going to be plus or minus here, whatever your actual moisture is versus what the machine is telling you. So if you are cutting beans that are testing 10% on the monitor, your scale ticket comes back and says they're 11.5, you're going to want to put a moisture correction in there of 1.5. Yield calibrations, same way, wrench in the book, get into that. Combine calibrations, you're going to select the yield, and then you're going to go through and perform your yield calibrations. And they recommend doing 5 to 7 for the best accuracy, doing them at different speeds, basically so that you're getting a different flow going through the combine.
I got a question on
Yeah.
that. Okay, I understand the reasoning, but supposing you got one of your loads is 100 bushel corn,
Mhm.
next one to 150, or, you know, a big variation like that.
Yep. The next page will show you that. Here's where you're going to manage your calibrations. And you're going to start a new calibration load. So in order to do that, we're going to push this button down here on the right, on the bottom right. And then we go to that, we're going to see here that we're calibration load 1. Now, in order to get a calibration load, we've got to have a minimum of 3,000 pounds. The more, obviously, you're going to get a better calibration. If for instance, let's say that you've already got you're full of calibrations from the year before, we need to push this button right down here in the center, and then it'll bring up all your previous calibrations, and you need to go in and delete however many, so we got room to do a calibration. Once we get here, we're going to go to the next step again. And it'll tell us here, yeah, minimum of 3,000 pounds collected. Minimum. There's, you can store up to 13 loads, calibration loads. And here's where we're actually going to start our calibrations. Once we get started here, we'll go over here. Now we're on this page and it's showing that we're collecting a calibration load 1, and it's going to keep showing an estimated weight in there of what the combine is saying that it has. Now we get to the, if you look on this line here, calibration 1, we have an estimated 20,760 pounds. That is what the combine said that we had for that calibration. Our actual was 21,076. Well, it's going to put a percentage number in there and show the difference of what we are for that load taken. Now back to your question, if you calibrate one load that's 100 bushel corn, you calibrate another load that's 150 bushel corn, that's not going to make much of a difference because we're basically going off of estimated weight and actual weight. So our calibration number might be negative 1.5 on the 100 bushel corn, and our calibration number might be a 0.05 or 0.5 on the 150 bushel corn. It's still going to take them averages and figure what your actual calibration is. Did that answer your question for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now here's where they're taking different flows to make that calibration accurate. Let's say our normal harvest speed is 5 miles an hour. We're going to take one calibration at 5.5, one at 5, one at 4.5, one at 4, 3.5, 3, 2.5, and so on. And the reason for that is to get the different flows, like they was talking about on the brown box with the high flow and the standard flow. In order to get an accurate measurement, we need to have different flows going across that sensor. Now, once we get these calibrations and we've started and stopped calibrations, we go in here. It's going to tell us all this calibration load, whatever. We're going to look at these numbers and we're going to select. Let's say that you got two different types of ground. We're on that 100 and 150 bushel corn again, and we want to get a real accurate count on that 150 bushel corn. Well, let's say 1, 2, and 3 was all in the better corn. 4 and 5 was in the poorer corn. Well, let's just select the 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to get an accurate calibration, a more accurate calibration for that. Now, obviously, we're going to need 5 to 7 calibrations to get within a 3% error. Any questions so far? Am I going a little too fast? And once again, we want to make sure that when we start doing this, that our sensors are all clean and there's no debris on it. Same way if you're going from wet corn to dry corn, you want to make that notation. That's another way that you can determine between wet and dry corn is on that when you can select which calibrations you want to use.
So with the S series, then you don't have to necessarily, like you get done combine, you do your first calibrations and then you combine beans, then you go back into drier corn. You don't necessarily have to keep doing calibrations all the time. If you already previously have had a drier moisture calibration.
If you previously had a drier calibration in there, you're correct. Yes, you do not have to go in and do another calibration. You can select which of those calibrations that you need to be using.
All right.
Once you get all those calibrations in there, check mark the ones you're going to be using. Down here at the bottom, you're going to hit the little soft key there, the black arrow, the big black arrow, and then it's going to do the calibration for you. And yeah, the accuracy of it, obviously a 1 calibration, we're only looking at a 20% accuracy. 5 to 7, for that 3% accuracy. here's where you can, you know, take a pencil and paper or whatever, write down your calibrations. So then you know, when you go back in to do another dry corn or wet corn, you know that you need to select 5, 6, 7, and 8 if you're gonna be on wet corn, or 1, 2, 3, and 4 if you're gonna be on dry corn. Then that way, them calibrations are still stored in there.